Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Derek Johnson in the house, everybody. So please, we know how it goes with Derek. Today, I suggested a Q&A, but in light of the events that have happened, Derek wants to talk about how we are, explain to everybody once again, how we are in a military operation, and hopefully it will clear up some questions and maybe some confusion that's going on, because I know there's a lot of confusion, everybody. And again, you know, I tell my audience, I tell my friends, everywhere that I go, if I'm in a space speaking or whatever, question everything, absolutely. But when it comes to the Charlie Kirk situation, just I know there's a lot of pain going on. Some, you know, kind of after yesterday's amazing memorial, just kind of, they're still in shock and awe, right? So the best thing I can say is continue to do your research, question everything, because things don't add up to me. The dots aren't connecting. There's a lot of anomalies. But for me, I'm going to stay neutral for what is going on. But Derek is going to be talking to all of you about it to hopefully give you guys some clarity and a little bit more understanding. And this is not anything new that Derek has not shared with us. He's been sharing this with us all along, right? But unfortunately, through things like this, we do see our emotions get involved. You know, I mean, I was emotional myself. I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, I just say, obviously, question everything, do your research, because again, there's a lot of anomalies. There's just things, obviously, that don't add up for many people that would make them question, is this fake or real, right? So, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm there with I'm there with everybody else too. So, but Derek is here today to kind of, and hopefully you guys can understand and listen. I see many of you and people reached out to me like Derek's just passionate, everybody. And I think the frustration lies with many of us people out there doing trying to give you guys the truth. People don't want to do their own research to just kind of back up a lot of stuff that people that a lot of us are saying out there. So I get it, emotions are involved, but hopefully he, through the course of the presentation today, his conversation here with you guys, he will answer a lot of your questions, because again, like I said, this isn't anything new that he has not shared with us before. And of course, Donald Trump, it's out there, right? Laws and orders, executive orders, military operation, continuity of government. I mean, it's there. So I'm not going to do my PSAs. You guys kind of know the drill. I'm going to let Derek, he's here. I'm going to let him kind of take the floor. And maybe next time, maybe he can come on next week and let this kind of resonate with everybody, what he says today. And then maybe we can come back next week if he has some time, and I have some time with my schedule as well. We can come back and maybe do a Q&A. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. I'll talk to Derek. But with that, Derek, I'm going to let you take the floor. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm doing fine and dandy and sweet as molasses candy.
Well, you know, it's like I was just telling the audience, you know, like, you know, when things happen like this, it's kind of shock and awe, like it was with President Trump when he had that attempted assassination. And here it's like for me, it's a little surreal because he was here in Arizona. I mean, his location of his office was right down the street, and just to kind of to see everything yesterday. The traffic backed up for miles, people lining up the night before at 11:30 to get into the stadium yesterday at 7 o'clock when they opened the doors. It was beautiful. What we saw in the uniting of this all, right, and everybody coming to Christ. And really, at the end of the day, everybody, that's the message you need to remember. If anything, through with Charlie Kirk, is he's the message he delivered when it came to God and faith. So but yeah, I would love for you to kind of just talk to the audience, because I know a lot of people have been watching you. There are a lot of them are in agreement with you, a lot of them are still confused. But take it away, it's all you, my friend.
Well, people need to realize that the end goal and the outcome is more important than the bumps along the way. Every operation has bumps, hiccups, um, and then the term question is like the word love. Love has been overused, misused, misconstrued, and applied in so many ways that the word don't even hold weight anymore as a word. The only way you can apply love is an action. The same thing with respect and a lot of other terms that we have. A lot of our terms we have are actions. They're not just words. So the word question has also become that. If you're questioning everything when you have a foundation, okay. But most people who lost their minds this week and or feelings and emotions just proved you're part of the shaft. And I don't mean you're a bad shaft, but it just proves it separates the wheat from the chaff. I've been saying this for a long time, and it's not about me, but for people who know me, you'll know my personality. But I've been saying this for a long time that the world can't keep going where it is with social media and technology, and everybody thinks they have a First Amendment. If your First Amendment does not align with the foundation of this nation, your First Amendment ain't jack diddly doo doo. That's how that works. Now, if I'm sitting around talking with you and you're a 75-year-old grandma from Podunk, Kansas, and you got some advice on how to make bread not go flat or bake a cake, okay, I'll listen to you. All right. Because I don't know how to do that. I can't bake a cake. All right. And so, therefore, that means your opinion in that realm, if you can, is valuable. But when your foundation isn't what the commander is working with, he wears the visual 45-47, and you're getting on Marine One yesterday. He's got his guys walking behind him with his wardrobe bag with it says POTUS 45-47. Now let me tell you something. Let me go ahead and enlighten you on something. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. I've been to Trump Doral, Trump International. I've been to some other places, not just President Trump locations, that are exquisite, immaculate, beautiful, elegant, whatever terms you want to use, classical, Renaissance, etc. I've been to them. All right. When you can have a wardrobe holder with your little initials on it, you are in another classification, my friends. All right. I don't even buy keychains with my nickname on it. It's the same thing with a watch. I don't buy expensive watches because I don't want to tell time that bad. All right. So if you'll apply those things, the liberals thinks he's a pompous ass. He's cocky. He's this. He's that. So if you apply what they think sometimes and flip it over to your way of thinking, a wardrobe bag with POTUS written on it, 45-47, would be a little bit extreme. It would mean you're a little cocky. It means you're a little braggadocious, right? If you didn't know better. So you always have to apply some things like that. Now, the commander, he is a commander in chief. He's a supreme commander. He's a wartime president. He's not just a president. That's why I tell people all the time, don't call him Trump. You call him President Trump. He's not Trump to you. He can use that. His kids can use that. And whoever, he's President Trump. That's the way I believe. All right. And if you don't know what the commander's working with, and you're just going to all these different people out there who are rabbit holed, they have gone through holes like you ain't never seen, but have no foundation. Same thing I say with Q. Q's real. It's a clearance. But Q is no good without laws and orders. The military is working on laws and orders. They're operating with laws and orders. Let's say it that way. That's how the military functions. There's 4 ways the military pairs with federal. Only 4. Executive orders, presidential, executive. National emergencies, presidential, executive. Treaties, presidential, executive. And proclamations, presidential, executive. That's where the president ties in right there. So if you don't know that, you're going to be lost. Now, the Constitution applies a little bit in another manner. From your Article 1, Article 2, it always applies, but there's certain things you got to extract from it when you're in a wartime presidency like this. It's unique. It's different. It's hope they would never use this again. That's why it's so unique and different. That's also why it's far-fetched and sounds old fogey and all kinds of other things. It's only that when you don't know the terms, the definitions, the index, the glossary, and then those are just your terms. Then when you get them in a paragraph, you got to know how the paragraph reads. And then you got to be able to see the enforcement. Now, my dad turned 83 yesterday. All right. And someone that's in my dad's age bracket, I'm okay with them saying things, well, we've had the laws and orders on paper for years and we ain't never seen them enforced. All right, well, that's okay for that bracket to say that, because everybody lived under a lie from 2016 back. That's why nobody can point a finger and say I'm more awake than you when it comes to before 2016. Now, you could have been, and you could have been intuitive and intact the whole time. That's fine. But everybody still lived in that realm. You had to vote for Bush because that was all you had. You had to vote for President Reagan and different things. You had to vote for every Republican along the way that you had, because that's all you had. That's why this is so unique and different. That's why President Trump's an outsider. That's why he's unique, different with his language. That's why he's unique and different with laws and orders. The 45-47 had to be so different, but also unique, that it set aside and it sliced everything in half from the past of what we had. And that's not knocking Abraham Lincoln and going back, but when America was hijacked in 1871, that's why this stuff matters. So most of the people who reacted negatively and the hate and the mockery, that's to be expected, because you're the target audience. Welcome to being the target audience. All right. Now, you can escape that and you can feed yourself with what you need to know and what you should know. And especially if you love President Trump, you should want to know what makes him different. If you love Charlie Kirk, you should want to know that he's a part of the special operation. But until you have a foundation in not just laws and orders of the land in your normal, regular setting, but then you got to know a little bit about unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, the strategies and tactics that have been used in years past. And ironically, most of the men who are qualified to talk about it are all past. My grandfather would have been gone 20 years yesterday. He served from 43 to 45 during one of the most popular puppet governments in world history. Well, they hadn't used the puppet governments much except for the 40s in the World War II era. So think of all the men who have passed on. And thank God, I will brag on myself for a moment, because I'm giving highlight and tribute and honor to my grandfather. But thank God I listened to my grandfather. Thank God I didn't cast away the elders like these younger generations have done, which is also why Charlie Kirk's turning point and also this operation was so strategic with colleges and high schools. It's psychological warfare 101. And if you want out of that, if you want to escape the matrix, as we call it, then you got to listen to people who know the full picture. Now, there's a lot of people out there with some decent platforms. I don't know. I'm not going to endorse many, but I don't do that. I don't shout out or endorse, because then people run with it and they try to act like they're somebody that they're not. But you got to know military and also federal. And then you got to know a little bit of history. And so what everybody witnessed, look at where we are today. I mean, we're already a year and almost a half past the quote unquote assassination on President Trump, July 13th. Look how everybody went right back to normal and just act like, well, yeah. Because you know why? You've been desensitized through what? TV. Most of you. Most people listening. Yellowstone, Ozark, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad. All these TV shows, gory, gory, gory. All over the board, gory. That no one focused on what they thought they saw. They didn't focus on that part. You didn't focus on, what you thought was a bullet hole and a gut blood. And it didn't focus on that. And that's where everybody's tripping up, because it was all artificial intelligence. Already been proven. And it's also in President Trump's laws and orders. And I'm going to show you that. All artificial intelligence. Straight up. America failed again. Americans failed in 2020 with the fear of death. This time around, they failed through the perception of death. This is very key. And it proves people really, you're a bandwagon President Trump fan. You just love him. You love the image and the thought of him. You don't really know him. And I heard this one time in a quote with a movie or something with it was a female telling a guy, because it's typically a female who's more emotional than a male. And she said, do you love me, or is it the thought of me? Is it can you not live without me, or is it the thought of not living out without me? Which one is it? Is it that you can't live without me, because you love me so much, or is it just a thought of me being gone? And a lot of Americans just found out you thought you loved President Trump, but you don't really know anything about him. All right, ladies, y'all know this. You know this better than anybody. You want your man to ask you all the right questions, but you want them to absorb it, not just ask it because they think they have to, right? It's that emotional. That's where the emotional. That's how you flip the emotional, though, from the other standpoint. What everybody thought they witnessed. They didn't focus on the gory. They didn't focus on what they thought was a gunshot in a wound. And, oh, my God, I can't believe it showed this on TV. No, we didn't do that. Everybody just went, oh, Charlie Kirk, yeah, Charlie. Well, I don't have anything against Charlie, but pulling a point here. I do this with country music. Country music fans are just as captured. What did President Trump talk about at this thing? A funeral with no casket? Ooh, weird. I thought we were just going to see a casket. All right. Then he had talked about making America healthy again at a dang funeral. We're talking about rally points at a funeral, right? And he called it a monopoly. What have I been talking about country music being? A monopoly. Yeah. And what do country music fans do? They'll take up from Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs and all these other big artists in the last 20 years who are all part of a monopoly, a captured system, control and capture. They capture and control the audience and control them. Same thing. Same exact thing. And so, you know, right now, everybody's seeing that. I have full confirmation Tracy Lawrence, Old School Country, is reading my book. All right. Old School Country before 2012 was a whole different bracket. All right. And then they took over this monopoly. All right. And so that's what this whole thing's about, is breaking all these minds that have been captured and controlled by these mega systems. And the people are out there taking up for people like me when I've broken down country music and how it's a monopoly, and it's all same political people don't want to hear about it because you're captured and controlled. You don't want to hear. But boy, you take up from Morgan Wallen, a person you'll never meet, you'll never know. You don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. You know nothing about them, and you'll take up for them. And we got a civilian by status, and Americans are more concerned about a civilian, but I trash the hell out of a veteran. That's when you know we're in a major psychological warfare. A veteran keeping an oath, showing you laws and orders by the man you claim to love and support and vote for, and that's the one getting trashed? That's the one taking the ridicule, the mockery, like Jesus Christ walking to the dang cross, carrying the cross, being spit on and laughed at and mocked, is the veteran? Now, I have nothing against Charlie Kirk again. Never have. But if you'll go back to my viral video, August 24, 2022, what's the one name I said in that video? Charlie Kirk. And what did I say 3 years ago? Over 3. I said, these people, I said, you won't hear this from Charlie Kirk. You won't hear this from anybody. They're not teaching you laws and orders of what you need to know that empowers yourself. It's not my job to coerce and persuade you to vote for anybody. It's my job as a veteran to show you the laws and the orders of this land that we, the people, are the government. We govern that. The way you know leaders are for you and working for you and side by side with you, because they're your representatives, is to know the laws and the orders. And when you know the laws and the orders, you'll be able to hold them accountable, and you'll be able to know when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because a lot of you don't want that job, and that's fine. Not everybody's cut out to be a representative, in the face and the workload and the stress and all the other stuff that comes with it, right? So, but how do you keep them in line? That's what the Constitution is even for. It's a framework to keep Congress in check. It ain't for Congress to tell you, oh, don't ask me that. Da, 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 da. No, we're the government. We, the people, do that. So if you don't even know your own foundation, no wonder the swamp looked like it did all these years. It's people who become complacent and lazy. And you can't slice that hair any other way. You can't split it any other way. It's exactly what it is. And so I tell people, you want to get to know my personality? Watch a John Wayne movie. Go watch the real John Wayne. His real name was Marion Morrison, but go watch an interview of him, a regular interview, not a movie. Go listen to him. You want to see what kind of men raised me? That's the kind of men who raised me. My grandfather talked just like him. All right. It's abrasive. You call it abrasive, they call it tough. And you know what they'll tell you? All of them. You'll get over it. All right. You will. And then when you see the truth, you're going to know the truth, and you're going to thank God that someone was willing to tell you the truth just like it is versus sugarcoating it and patting you on the rear end along the way. All right. It's like I watched football today. These kids celebrate every single play. Get your ass on the sideline and celebrate after the game when it's over. But most of the time they're celebrating, they end up losing the game. For what? It looks like it's all about yourself when you do that, not your team. So see, I'm a team player. But at the same time, there has to be leaders on the team that know how to get you through the tough times and be tough during it and say, hey, wipe that off your face. Let's go. This ain't no time for crying. This ain't no time for slouching. This is no time to be lazy. No time to be complacent. No time to be yellow of faith. Cowboy up. Let's go. All right. So what everybody witnessed, if you reacted negative, sad, emotional, whatever it is, and I told this to my own friends and family, don't matter who you are. If you acted that way, you don't know the foundation. You're not reading and studying and applying what you can know. Is it a lot of information? Yes. But again, I've applied it my whole life. You have to do the same. And so unconventional warfare, the end goal and the outcome is more important. So the psychological thing that I've been talking about a long time, and you've heard me talking about it, those who follow me in my podcast, we can't maintain and sustain the way we've been going. You can't. With all these moving mouths out there and all these people who think that they know what's going on because they're all drama and propaganda based, they need to be wiped out. Now, they're not going to do away with the internet, obviously, because we're in a place of technology where it works for us and it's great. But it's that saying I always say, it's great when it's great, but when it's bad, it's worse. Because there's no end and no stop to what people do when they do what they're not supposed to be doing. That's why the liberals look really atrocious. But ironically, the liberals look closer to the truth than rhinos and Republicans and conservatives after this past week. They're all calling fake and BS. They just don't know it's a special operation. And then would they appreciate the military or not is the question. All right. I'm willing to bet some would if they're all about humanity and if they were told by the right person that, hey, your rights haven't been taken away. This is what the end goal is. This is what the outcome is. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Everybody's going to be fine. It's just a clean out of this brainwashing that everybody's had that thought the government's supposed to give handouts to everybody and anybody and all this other stuff. It's a wipage. It's a full-fledged flipping the Declaration back on its foundation, our everything. That's what everybody's witnessing. But ironically, this week, liberals look closer to the truth than rhinos, conservatives, and Republicans. So the unconventional warfare, if you go, this is how God works on dates and good symbolism. See, there's people out there who think symbols are always bad. It's not. We have symbols on the good. We have symbols on the bad. All right. And you heard at the Charlie Kirk, quote unquote, funeral, you heard one of them say, he said, well, what God meant for good, man will make evil, but what man makes evil, God can make good. It works both ways. And so when you think about what's all been taking place, we had to flip this thing back over. So unconventional warfare, it's psychological warfare as well. But what you're watching is a counter psyop. It's not a psyop, and President Trump's not lying to anybody, and it's not that. You'll hear that out there. That's none of that. But JFK, President Trump is finishing what JFK started. All right. April the 11th, 1962, JFK wrote a letter. And it's about guerrilla warfare, how we need to put that in our military tactics. Well, if you go look at the 2023, October the 7th, 2023 Special Operations Command publication called Renaissance. The only person who has used the term Renaissance is President Donald John Trump. That's not a term you just throw around loosely. Renaissance. What date was that again? October the 7th, 2023. That's the date that the whole world thought the Israeli war started. All this stuff is strategic and operational. In that publication is JFK's letter from April the 11th, 1962, how we need to be in control of guerrilla warfare. You've heard President Trump say artificial intelligence. We need to be in control of it. And when the good guys are in control of it, we ain't got to worry about the bad guys. But when the bad guys are in control of it, then you need people like me who also knows this, because we got to do what? You got to know it, have the skill sets to identify and operate and take them over and get back where the good guys are in control. That's what you're watching. You have watched the swamp drain right in front of you, but it had to be done lawfully, strategically, and tactically without losing the world either to a what? A world war or a civil war. All those executive orders that were open from Obama all the way back to Carter that were open with national emergencies, these nations were promised something on our behalf. So you have to do what? Hey, this is what's going on, and this is how it's going to happen, and this is what you're going to do, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what the world's going to see, and this is... President Trump says, I ended 7 wars and no one thanks me for it. I mean, this, you know, I understand what he's saying too, even though it's still operational, but still, we could have done this a lot quicker if people would do what? Do what you're supposed to be doing. But oh no, people still falling for emotions and feelings. And it's also something to show them where you are as well. When President Trump said January the 20th, 2017, we're taking the power out of Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people, can't give it back to you if you don't know what the hell's going on. Can't give it back to you if you don't know what to do with it. Can't give it back to you if you won't even listen to the very people who are in command, who are in operations. And the way you know that is laws and orders. We got to have them, because if we don't, guess what would happen? Remember old Barney and his little one bullet in his shirt? Oh, you got purple hair. You look like a liberal. Let me get my little bullet out. I'm going to shoot you. We'd have everybody taking law into their hands if we didn't have an establishment of law and order, especially with our population, 347 million. We'd have chaos. So you have to have order. You have to have laws and orders. You have to have a foundation. You have to have balance. You have to have structure. You have to have discipline. And people are showing they don't have that. You let one little thing, even if it would have been real, you let that control you that much. Someone you don't even know, just because he says all the right things and does all the right things and acts all the right things in front of you on the screen, but you don't know anything about him backstage. See, that's where Americans falter. Now, the good part of it is you have a good heart, right? That's what you're going to say, and that's fine. You go, well, I trust until given a reason not to. That's fine with your mama, your daddy, your auntie, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it is. That not someone you never met until what? You know more about them. Now, people can say, well, look at you, Derek. Now, that's fine. I told people from day one, go back and watch me on day one. I tell people, hey, I got it on video. I got timestamp. I said, don't trust me. Trust what I give you. And when I give you this and the good Lord keeps me around long enough, consistency will show you. Now, you can say that with what Charlie talked about, but Charlie was a social person. It was all about, hey, you know, oh, you got pregnant before wedlock, and I think you shouldn't get pregnant before, you know, I don't think you should have sex before marriage. That, to me, now, the young kids may need to hear it, sure. But again, at the same time, look at the parents that didn't instill that. So that's like a gray area. You can agree with that or disagree with it. That's fine. But what matters the most are the laws and orders of this land. That's what Congress is working with. All right. And if you know what you're supposed to be knowing and teaching your children what you're supposed to be teaching them, then you will establish that in your household. You won't have to worry about when your child goes off to college, if they want to go, and if colleges even exist after this, when they eliminate Department of Education, and depending on who teaches our history, like President Trump says, he says we're going to defund every school, high school, college, whatever, that don't teach our history. But if people are doing what you're supposed to be doing on the front, we wouldn't ever have to worry about anything else. So I'm all right with the social graces out there, but the social graces don't teach what's going on with the commander in chief, what's going on with the military. And there's so many visuals when people say, it's like you'll believe one lie, but you need 4 trillion things from the military just alone to show, well, this is what this is. This is what this. You're watching it. You witness it. And people don't read and study. And it's not that difficult. There's a few big pieces. I was telling a friend yesterday, there's a few big pieces that people could bite their teeth into that would be enough to go, dang. Now, I see that. Yes, I see it. I get it. I understand it. That you should want to go see all the other pieces around it. And I'm about to show you those. But unconventional warfare, when the good guys are in control, an assassination is a deliberate creation. And then it tells you in there what it is for. It says forming favorable public opinion. Well, did we do that? Yeah, we did. Remember July last year when I said that with President Trump? I said, did we form a favorable public opinion? Yeah, we did, didn't we? People are going, oh, don't shoot president. Okay, I get it. You know. And then it says what? Advocating national cause. Well, did it do that? Well, did it leave Butler, PA? Yeah, it did, didn't it? Did it leave Provo, Utah? Yes, it did, didn't it? All right, so bingo, checkmate. There's your 2 big key lines right there of a deliberate creation of assassination when the good guys are in control of a special operation. And President Trump, everywhere he goes, tip of the spear, tip of the spear, tip of the spear. Every meeting, tip of the spear, tip of the spear. That's special operations. Then you had Elon Musk yesterday, tip of the spear, sitting there right with President Trump, tip of the spear, both of them, tip of the spear. Then they interviewed Elon talking to someone, and he said, yeah, every time he said something about him dying, he had tip of the spear. He'd do weird hand formations the whole time. But it's not weird. It's awkward when you know what's going on, and it's so awkward that you know it, and this is your background, this is your playing ground, this is your play field. And you're sitting there watching, how do these people not see him? Every time he says something, he puts tip of the spear up. It is so obvious at this point. But it's not obvious because people who don't do what? Read and study, just what you're supposed to know. What do you think President Trump works with is what gets me. You think he just waits up? All right, fellas, I slept a little late today, but, let's just look at what we can do today. Come on, people. Give him more credit than that. Give the generals more credit than this. Give the special operators more credit than this. Give the special military, the secret military, give them more credit than this. Jesus Christ, have mercy, God. And I don't take the Lord's name in vain. I'm not doing that. But my God, have mercy, people. The man couldn't put it any more in front of you. 45-47. Punctuation. If I said I'm going to be in Utah from September the 22nd to September the 27th, why would I put out September 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th? Why don't I just put September 22nd dash 27? Then that should cover what? 22 through 27. So President Trump will either absolutely have to lose his rocker and look absolutely braggadocious, stupid, out of his mind, whatever term you want to use there. But the liberals ain't even noticing the 45-47. But let's say they did, then he'd have to say, well, yeah, I know that I lost 2020. Like getting in the minds of the rhinos. Oh, yeah, I lost, but I still think I won. So I put the dash there. I mean, that's what you would have to, that's the way you split that hair right there for layman's terms. So unconventional warfare, it's all there. Also, unconventional warfare, when you go to the core activities of unconventional warfare, on Special Operations Command page, official.mil, it tells you what that is. It tells you that it's to overthrow a government. It can't be any more clear. Now, that has to be done lawfully to do it. Because if it wasn't done lawfully, then what the liberals would say is it was a coup. Now, they're still going to call it a coup, the ones that still stay ostracized and get ostracized and they just don't want to see the light and all the other things. But you can put any term on it you want to do it. But by law, it's unconventional warfare. By libtard standards, it's a coup. All right. However you want to slice it, doesn't matter. But when we all agree on the laws and orders, and it's for the good of humanity and the good of our nation and the good of our states and the good of all of our communities, then it's unconventional warfare. It's not conventional for a reason. That's why it's called unconventional. Clandestine and covert operations, which means secretive until we want you to know about them. But it's all public once it's already been done. Everything I talk about is public law and public visuals already. So let's just look at a few things. So September the 9th. Now, I have my number one best-selling books, right? The Midnight Rider Rides Again and the Royal Flush of Country Music. I have those. I'm self-published, no ghostwriter. I wrote them straight off the top of my dome. All right. Well, whenever I publish them on Amazon, and this is for future people too, if you're an author out there and you want to know, when you go to Amazon, you pay like $40 a month for a store. All right. That because you got to have that in order to sell on Amazon. Well, when you go set your book up, you're going to have to get you a graphic designer who can read all that crazy language. I can't, all the coding and all the things. And then they'll ask you, did you use AI, artificial intelligence, chat, GPT, all these other things? You got to go through all that, put your title in, put your header in, put all these things in, author's name, etc. Right? Well, when you hit submit, 24 hours it takes to go through their system just to start the process. Once they receive it, then it's another 24 to 72 hours before it goes live. If there's not a discrepancy, meaning like something was wrong with your graphic and it didn't fit in the screen and all these other things, or the page numbers didn't match this and that and other. So those things. If there's a discrepancy, Amazon will send you an email and then it'll kick it back. And then when you submit the new, whatever it is the error was, same process again, 24 hours to start the process and 24 to 72 hours to go live. If you have 47 errors, apply the same logic. All right. But what happened? If it took 3 weeks to finally get it right, guess what the publication date is? The date that you first submitted it. So how is there a book? How was there a book that I have a screenshot and everything, and I wasn't the only one that caught it, but the shooting of Charlie Kirk published September the 9th. You think they got lucky? You know, Bezos was one of those who capitulated to President Trump. He was one of those whose assets got frozen by Executive Order 13959 with a national emergency. That quote-unquote Joe continued 4 years in the earth because President Trump is such a dictator, right? Had an automatic 2-year termination on it, and quote-unquote Joe continued it. And Bezos capitulated, and Bezos donated to President Trump to this past election. And then President Trump, just not long ago, about a month and a half ago, launched a store on Amazon. Wow, what a weird coincidence that is. Not. All right. So Amazon, they're showing you this whole thing is strategic, plan, operation. And there's proclamations. These are proclamations and timestamps to show you none of this is real if you're following it. But see, you'd have to know what? You'd have to know Amazon's process. Well, now you know. And once you know, you can't unknow. All right. September the 10th, the whole world, oh, the rhinos and the Republicans. Oh. Is it a white shirt? No blood on it? Ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you write into me, and I don't know if you're listening or whatnot, but I don't really care. I'm going to still shoot deer. I eat deer. I'm like Ted Nugent, like Uncle Ted. I don't care. I live off the land as much as I can. But let me tell you what a 30-06 will do to a deer. I ain't never seen a deer lean into a bullet. When you squeeze the trigger, that deer don't know that bullet's coming for it. So how in the hell would a deer know to lean into the bullet? Okay. This is compliments of Jaco as well. Jaco was the first to put this out before anybody, but this is all just straight up military, and also deer hunters know this. The deer don't know a bullet's coming. All right. How did Charlie know to lean into the bullet? And a 30-06 will blow your freaking neck off. A 30-06 travels at 2,800 to 3,200 feet a second. Now, I also have a 7mm Magnum. It travels at 3,600 feet a second. That's a half a mile, ladies and gentlemen, in a second. All right, and a 30-06 is a little bit bigger bullet, lead. All right, when it hits, it comes with a bigger capacity. Like it's got a velocity around it. So when it goes in, it's going to leave a big enough, it'll leave like about a $50 hole going in. Coming out is going to be even crazier. Hey, you wouldn't, and see, they showed you this on World TV. The whole freaking world saw the same thing. And what did the world do? Didn't talk about the gory. Didn't talk about a bullet. Didn't talk about none of it. No. Even though it was all artificial, I'm about to show it to you. No, didn't talk about that. Everybody went to emotion, sadness, and Charlie, why? Charlie, oh, we're mad now. We're going to get you now. Didn't even talk about the gore. Didn't talk about that. See, target audience. So a 30-06, one, it would have been louder than that. Two, bigger hole. Three, the blood didn't even go past his chest. It didn't even land anywhere. It didn't splatter all over the shirt. Wasn't saturated all over the shirt. And it shows a flow there. And then it shows it splurting out to the side. When you slow it down, you screen record it. How can blood go horizontally when it didn't even land in the lap or anywhere? It just shows it going to his pec and just splattering to the left. Right? If you're looking at the screen, but to his left, get out of here, people. A 30-06 would have looked like his shirt would have looked red, the whole thing. And then you would have seen a neck dangling. It wouldn't have had a neck left. They showed you this on freaking World TV. Within an hour, everybody's social media, they allowed that into your phone and your TV. You can
And your
barely,
mind. And your mind.
you can barely post anything on social media of something just regular, and they go, boom, sensitive content. And to this day, in the comment boxes where I've shown the video of this blood seal, quote unquote, it's not censored. Why is it not censored? Because it's artificial intelligence. They wanted you to see that. This was strategic because President Trump on the 9th posted about the quick trials. If you'll go back, time stamped on my page, you'll see me talking about, I said, President Trump's getting everybody for the quick trial. He's getting you ready. He's talking about the quick trials again. And just a month before, he talked about how he didn't think people were ready for the quick trials and justice. And the month before, a month ago, he had reposted All Roads Lead to Obama. Read Truth if you want to see military tribunals. Look at all the people who didn't even go join True Social when he told you to join 4 years ago. What did people do? They didn't do it. And so don't even listen to the commander. All right, read Truth if you want to see military tribunals. What's going to be a military tribunal? What do we all say, all of us veterans that talk about treason? Treason is automatic death penalty. All right, so everybody passed that test. You passed that because the goriness ain't going to bother anybody. When they see people executed, it ain't going to bother nobody. Checkmate. Mission accomplished on that. The failure was what Melania, your first lady, had talked about September the 4th, the importance of AI. And President Trump has 7 executive orders this year alone on artificial intelligence. 6 before the 10th. 1 just a couple of days ago. We have a new executive order with artificial intelligence on the 18th. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. It shows you don't read, study, and know anything about your commander and what he's doing and how you have to be a president and what the president's role and duties are as the what? Chief executive officer of the what? Executive branch. So all of what you saw wasn't even real. And there just so happens to be a hatch door to the left that they're letting hit media right now. Mainstream media, The Hill and all these, they're showing all these people out there like an excavating crew and all these out there, and they got a hatch door, and it just so happens to open towards the audience, what would have been the audience. People out there running. Most of it was central casting. Most of those are all actors. They're crisis actors. And if you'll listen to President Trump, he's been consistent from day one. Central casting, central casting, central casting. All these people are crisis actors. A central casting actor is not Tom Cruise, John Wayne, or Tom Selleck, or whoever is your favorite out there. We're talking about people who are considered like the others, right? When you're already getting up, leaving the movie theater, and the credits are still rolling, those poor people who don't get their name seen except for their families going, there's my cousin at the very bottom of the list, right? That's who you're watching out there. And President Trump tells you this.
Background actors, right?
That's right. And President Trump tells people that. All right. So then you run that video through Chat GPT. So when you're on Amazon loading a book, ladies and gentlemen, it asks you, did you use AI? And in gray, if you didn't know what that was, like if you're new to that terminology, in gray, it's got this little highlight that says an example. When you type in it, it goes away. But it has Chat GPT. Our government uses Chat GPT. Oh, weird. What do you know? And then your first lady's telling everybody on the 4th how important it is to know AI. And so what did everybody do? They failed the test. The first speed test failed it, and it's in executive orders. President Trump has an executive order in 2020, which I'm about to break down, and also just in March that outlines everything you witnessed was nothing but artificial intelligence. And you didn't even listen to the first lady just 6 days before this quote-unquote event, right? Don't even have to get into Erica, and she's an actress and all that. You can. That's fine. It's all true. But just simple, straight-up laws and orders of the president. People don't even know what's going on lawfully and how you got to know this stuff because this is the future, and you don't want to be duped by this stuff. All right, so on the 10th, that was not real. Hat stores there. Blood wasn't real. Blood can't splatter to the left if it don't have a landing surface. The media told you within an hour. There's a timeline that CNN or one of those has out. It's got the full timeline, hour by update, full timeline. All right, within an hour, they were telling you the shooter, Charlie Kirk shot at 200 yards with no shooter and no location. How did they know it was 200 yards without a shooter and a location? They tell you this stuff, and this is how people don't pay attention to detail. Not just what you thought you saw and you didn't see. No blood, didn't splatter, didn't land. And then they showed that one clip of him going to the vehicle, them hauling him off. His whole right arm looks like Easter egg dye that's maroon. All right. How can your arm be colored in blood, but not your white shirt? Now, I'm sorry. I mean, I know I try to refrain from the words dumb and stupid, and it's going to be hard to right now. But if you believe that, my grandma used to say, God love you. Well, God love you. All right, if you believe that. Now, the 12th. What is so important about bringing a quote-unquote widow? If this was an unexpected death, what's so important about bringing the widow onto a screen and talking, first and foremost? Why not wait to a funeral? Why not wait to a visitation or a funeral? That don't even make sense. What's so important about naming her CEO that quick? What's so important about that? I mean, even someone as little as me, I have a will and I have an order of succession already planned out. Someone as little as me. You don't think he didn't have that if this was real? Come on, people. Wake up. All right. So what would be so important? Then I got, you talking about pummeled on Instagram because people prove they're captured. Instagram's just a photo place. You can't really post a whole lot of literature and stuff. I put on my storylines and I showed the AI and I showed the real Erica. Oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. You should have seen those comments from women. All right. Not y'all real patriot women, but some others out there that, So, that makeup can do that. Cosmetics. You can change your eyebrows. Well, guess who they showed yesterday? So Erica's first post on Instagram is January the 3rd, 2012, which would be 13 years ago. Not that long ago, right? So from 2012 to her most recent video, which is September the 4th, that you can see, looks like the same girl. Looks like what you would age in 13 years. So see, this is why it pays to keep your freaking mouth shut until you know more, unless you already know, like I do. But if you don't, keep your mouth shut and let it play out. Because all those women who commented that, guess what they showed yesterday? The same girl that looked like the girl from January 3rd, 2012 to September the 4th. So all those who made a comment about her eyebrows and can be changed and reshaped, the girl from the 2012 to September the 4th, same dark eyebrows. And then the girl yesterday, dark eyebrows. So why would she change up? Why would it be so important? If this was an unexpected death, ladies, why would it be so important to change your looks completely? Your hair, how it lays, everything, your eyebrow, your eye tint, your eyeliner, everything. Why? Why is that priority? And then when women say, well, she was prepared for the crying. Okay, well, then the girl they showed yesterday, she ain't still supposed to be crying. Why was her makeup darker? Come on, women. You're the intuitive, smart ones. Come on now. Any of you who thought that, get your head out your rear end. You wouldn't do that if this was unexpected. Think of the things first. If it was unexpected, you'd be doing the best you say, all right. Come on, people. All right, the 12th. You run that through. You take the original footage for her speaking, put it through ChatGPT. Guess what it says? Artificial intelligence. The very thing your first lady said to do and to study and to know, you're not even doing it. And it's one of the main key apps out there. All right. It's not going away. And that's what she said. It's not going away. So you need to know about it and you need to study it and you need to know. And then that way you can tell what is and what ain't. And then if you don't know, run it through the system. You'll find out if it's real or not. That's why you see me slapping myself on videos, showing people I'm real. All right. Don't feel good to slap myself, but I show people I'm real. I'm not wearing a suit. So how was it on the 15th that I knew to get on a podcast, ladies and gentlemen? I've been talking about how every war has a turning point. I talk about Valley Forge. I've said this many, many times that Valley Forge was a turning point, and you'll see a turning point in every war, and you'll see it when we get there. What happened? And on the 15th, I go live. Timestamps don't lie, and my audio, video don't lie. I said, this is the turning point, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. Charlie Kirk, this whole thing, he sacrificed his name, his platform, and everything. This is the turning point. It's psychological because it got the target audience checkmate. But if you think you're a patriot and you reacted with the emotions, you're not. You're in that target audience. You're not a patriot. All right? You don't need to use that term. You're the target audience. You need to hop back over there and educate yourself a little bit more. But this is all part of the operation. I said, this is a turning point. Now, the reason why it's important, because it sounds braggadocious coming from a first-person form, the reason why it's important is because I have all the blueprint of the laws and the orders that outline the 45-47, and I had this in publication. I published January 2021 in my documents that became the book. So people who knew me before I even went viral, my friends and family already know this. And everything in those documents were exactly what they were at that time period. You can only know what you know at that time. But they are still saying military occupation, continuity of government, etc. So when you fast forward to present day, the reason why it's important is, how did I know to say that? It's the only post out there, Turning Point USA, on the 17th, 2 days after my podcast puts a photo up. This is a turning point. How did I know to go live on the 15th and to tell you that? It's all there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so the 21st. It sounded like a rally. Oh, well, that's probably because the Q post shows you it was a rally. And it says the Q rally. All right, on September 21st, Q post, it tells you you're watching a rally. And it was from 2018, the Q post. So as others know out there, God works in numbers, 7 years, right? So 7 onto that. Well, what are we having coming up next month? See, everybody's focused on next month. The Patriots are, but the real Patriots, who was in August, September, and October. But most people know that Bill and Hillary are being subpoenaed in October. If you put Charlie Kirk's name in Gematria Calculator, guess what it says? Finish line and red October. So now, I try to stay away from that as much as possible until people know the laws and the orders, because those are really important and those are foundational. And until people know that, they'll think that's a conspiracy theory and all these other things. I guess that's why President Trump posted again just a few weeks ago. When you look at the timeline of this, you'll see how this stuff happens. President Trump, just a few weeks ago, posted a post, and it's him standing with his hands open.
And it said, the world will soon understand. Nothing can stop what's coming. In his left hand, he has a Q with a plus sign beside it. So for all the people out there that called you a conspiracy theorist, hey, wear that badge with honor, baby, because it's proven out right in front of everybody. Q is a clearance, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost. It's not a conspiracy. It's a clearance to the Department of Energy. All right, now, the other big things that showed you this was Valhalla and Kash Patel. Kash Patel and Charlie Kirk are not veterans. All right, Valhalla is a term that we established with all of us veterans. I'm wearing my memorial bracelet right now, and it says Till Valhalla, brother. All right, it's something that all of us veterans adopted, and we use that because we're not better than civilians, but in the veteran community, it's like we feel like there's a special place for us. All right, and it probably needs to be with our humor because some people just can't handle us veterans, so that's probably where we need to be. It's somewhere separate. We might be the toddler section of heaven, to be honest with you, but we'll be having fun. All right. So Valhalla. What did Kash Patel say the other day? I see you in Valhalla. Valhalla, ladies and gentlemen, is the term for the witness protection program. That is accurate. That's completely true. All right, Valhalla. So he's sitting there telling you Charlie Kirk went to witness protection. Then you're Air Force Two. Now this is where I get mad. The right way. Mad at civilians because you don't want to listen to veterans. All right. If every veteran in this nation didn't know, or were the ones that are paying attention, and if they didn't know that this wasn't a military operation by laws and orders, but especially military laws and orders, they'd have every right to get pissed and mad at a regular civilian that Billy Graham didn't even get this honor. A lot of civilians didn't get this honor, that they would let a guy who was never in the military get a flight on Air Force Two. It don't matter what your feelings and emotions are. It doesn't matter. This is why I try to tell people, it don't matter what your feelings and emotions are and that you're okay with that. This is military we're talking about. Air Force One, Air Force Two, Marine One, Marine Two. Those are presidential, vice presidential. All right. So you wouldn't do that. And you don't have the Air Force giving a funeral. That's military funerals are for military personnel only. And if the military didn't know that, especially all the veterans in this land, but especially the veterans that say that they don't like Trump, President Trump, they would really backfire. So go back and watch the video. It was so awkward. J.D. Vance is super tall in that video, one. Two, he's pushing the casket backwards. It's like he's walking resistantly against it. All you got to do is walk with your hand on the casket if that was real. Why is the casket crooked? No one paid attention to that. It's crooked. That ain't military. I can go ahead and tell you right now. And then the other thing that shows you that is the fact that there's no White House military office right now. If you went to Google, the last White House military office was January 2022. But the archives that pulls up on Google is Obama's. The White House military office is the one that provides communications, travel, logistics, food, medical for the president. So how are you seeing Air Force One and Air Force Two, Marine One and Marine Two? How are you seeing that operate? You're not, because you're not watching a real administration. You're watching a military operation, a military occupation. And guess who proved that yesterday? Live audience speech yesterday. Who said it? Benny Johnson. And he said, we have a godly government and the Department of War and Department of Justice took over. He just validated Derek Johnson. If it were about me, and it's not. But he just validated the Midnight Rider Rides Again. He just validated the whole 45-47 right there. He said the Department of War, Department of Defense, old Department of Defense, Department of War, and Department of Justice took over this nation. He just validated the whole thing. And here's how. I've shown people for the last few years now that the Air Force One and Air Force Two are not flying with presidential call signs. They're flying either no or empty call signs, or they'll put the little AF2 up on the Air Force Two. That's not the official. This is where people struggle. When a president is on board an aircraft, it could be a crop duster. It could be a glider. It could be a lawnmower that you put wings on if you could get it off the ground. If the president's sitting on it, it's called Air Force One. And they'll call that the call sign, but that's not the call sign, the display call sign. The display call sign will say SAM 47, Special Air Mission. Guess who's flying with the Special Air Missions? Department of Defense, Department of War. And then guess what the DOJ is? There's a way a president can expand his powers lawfully. That's the emergency powers. That's what Dwight D. Eisenhower established with your Presidential Emergency Action Documents, PEDs. They accompany a continuity government. You can't have one without the other. Presidential Emergency Action Documents are draft classified. You can't Google them. But you can prove it, like this year, March again, the same month of the main AI executive order that proves Charlie was an AI artificial operation. All right, in March, President Trump said, I've signed over 400 executive actions since January the 20th. There was only 150 on the Federal Register total. Where were the other 250 presidential emergency action documents? They're draft classified. Guess who they're classified with? You'd think, logically, Department of War. Nope, Department of Justice. And Benny Johnson just sat there and told the whole freaking thing in just one sentence. We have a godly government, and the Department of War and Department of Justice took over this nation. He sat there and validated it. DOJ, Presidential Emergency Action Documents. Department of War, call signs, military, all the foreign aircraft here. There were so many foreign aircraft in the air yesterday in New York and off of Long Island and also other part of New York and all over. There were so many foreign aircraft up there. When the whole freaking administration was sitting in one location in one building, who was the designated survivor? Ladies and gentlemen, that would be not only a breach of national security, but stupid. All right, if this wasn't a military operation, that would be stupid on the quote-unquote Trump administration. That would be stupid to have every single person in the full order of succession sitting in one location in one building. Not just for crazy foreign, even though that's not taking place right now, but for the sake of normalcy. Not just for that, but earthquakes, natural disasters. So earthquakes, tornadoes. Now, you wouldn't have a hurricane in Arizona, but, I guess there's a first time for everything. But tornadoes, earthquakes, building structure falls down. Remember a Rascal Flatts concert back in like 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago? I don't know when it was, but there was a Rascal Flatts concert and the whole structure fell down and killed somebody. Come on, people. The whole administration sitting in one building? No, that's showing you right there. They are showing you so much. They are putting this stuff so much in front of people right now. But people do what? Well, I don't know if I believe that. It's because you don't know anything. You don't know what you're supposed to know. Now, President Trump has used 4 different terms the last 5 years heavily. Occupied territory, which he calls occupied country, white flag of surrender, capitulations, and puppet government. And then also mainstream media has been using those terms. All right. Those 4 terms are not government terms. They're law war manual terms. White flag of surrender and capitulations are in the same chapter under truce negotiations. And then your occupied territory and your puppet government are in the same chapter. Military occupation. Now, what are the odds of that? A military occupation, which means a military operation. All right. And it has to be done lawfully. What are those laws? Oh, everything that I outlined. Right. So those are your big key nuggets. Now, watch this. This is where it gets fun. I've said over and 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 over again. I've said, you've heard me say 47 United States Code section 606. Title 47 or 47 U.S. Code is your telecommunications codification under the Constitution. Title 47, Section 606 is titled War Powers of the President. War Powers of the President. It talks about the federal communications. It's got the FCC. All right. All over the board. But the 606 is where the president can control radio, TV, and internet broadcasts. He can control the narrative. He can revoke them. He can rescind them. He can terminate them. He can defund them. He can do whatever he wants to do lawfully. Now let's go to Executive Order 13913. Back April the 4th, 2020. How can President Trump be a threat to democracy? How can he be a dictator and a fascist and all these things when quote unquote Joe didn't terminate one single thing by President Trump that has to do with this war? See, Americans are duped because they don't know the difference in civil affairs and military operations. The puppet government and government exile of 1943-45 that my grandfather served through, the Philippines, it's the most popular one. The president of the Philippines was brought to Washington, D.C. under President Roosevelt. Roosevelt had full control of his military. That was a capitulation. The president of the Philippines said, I'm with you, I'm on board. Japan installed a fake president over the Philippines who met the press. Guess who thought he was real? The press did, because they didn't know what was going on. Because they don't know what's going on, because the press don't know laws and orders typically, just like anybody else. All right. So they thought it was real, and some of the people in the Philippines thought it was. But guess what happened? That real president with President Roosevelt knew that the end would reveal that. History would reveal that. That's what everybody witnessed. There were only 3 things that were consistent with quote unquote Joe from 2021 to 2025. 3. The insignia that you saw walk down behind President Trump January the 2017 when the military walked down behind him when he said, we're taking the power out of D.C., giving it back to you, the people. Military intelligence, judge, advocate, generals. Who collects evidence in the military? Military intel. Who puts it in a military tribunal, which is a military court? Judge, advocate, general. Treason, automatic military tribunal. Automatic. And then death penalty. The third thing that was consistent with quote unquote Joe that you didn't see with President Trump on purpose was to show you that President Trump is the commander of the military operation. And then the 2021, 2025, if you were following what you're supposed to be following by laws and orders, but also unconventional warfare, one other insignia was added anytime you saw quote unquote Joe around a soldier. And it sounds like 2, but it's one organization. Psychological operations and civil affairs. So when you heard President Trump in the quote unquote debate, he said, why didn't you keep it in place, Joe? Why didn't you keep inflation in place? Why didn't you I gave you firstly, no inflation, 1%. Every economist will tell you 1% is great. Why did you mess with it, Joe? Why did you that was to wake you people up. That's what you witnessed in your whole life before 2016. Every one of us lived under that. That was their checks and balances. When something didn't need to be fixed, that wasn't broken, what did they try to do? Fix something that wasn't broken. So see, they were showing people that. It was all puppet government, government exile, all in operation, but they were still showing people, teaching along the way that, hey, if something ain't broken, don't try to fix it. If it's working great, what are we doing changing it? It's working great. What? Every little thing had a role. So this Executive Order 13913 talks about the Director of National Intelligence. Executive Order 12333, which is in unconventional warfare, that's the assassination order. And the FCC. So when you tie all those in, then you got to go back to unconventional warfare. There's that pocket guide that I talk about assassinations being a deliberate creation. Executive Order 12333. Well, guess what? Supreme Court docket's in place. 23-939. That's March 19, 2024. Which is whom? Obama. Because it says, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit what? Political assassination of a rival. What are they calling this with Charlie Kirk? A political assassination? And then who's being subpoenaed next month? Bill and Hillary. And what did President Trump say last month? All roads lead to whom? Obama. Political assassination. See, the average mind here. This goes to your This won't have a name or any.
What'd you do? Did you move, Derek? Because you're now you're rubber banding. You sounded great.
No, I didn't move.
Okay, you're better. Keep going.
So guess who's not in the War Powers Act? Obama. Guess who says broke constitutional law? Military and federal lawyers. And whose name is associated now in a Supreme Court docket 23-939? Obama. Because it says, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit assassination on a political rival? The last president involved with SEAL Team 6 with the death of anybody was Osama bin Laden and Obama. That was May the 2nd, 2011. 5 months later, guess who else was quote unquote assassinated? Gaddafi. After he stood at the United Nations and he stood at the General Assembly and all, and he said, are we not going to investigate what happened to Saddam? He was friends with the U.S. until they killed him. And then he just mysteriously died. After he also said that the same 5 world powers can't continue ruling the world, and he mysteriously was assassinated 5 months after. And who was the Secretary of State? Hillary Rodham Clinton. Who was under congressional oath for Benghazi, Libya? Hillary Rodham Clinton. Who was the leader of Libya? Gaddafi. Okay. So this Supreme Court docket, and then it says what? Military officials and senior level officials say astounding no. Well, one of those 3 amici curiae, friends of the court, that's on that docket is 3-star General Keith Kellogg. Who did President Trump name as ambassador to Ukraine? General Keith Kellogg. Who wrote the 2017 National Security Strategy? General Keith Kellogg. Who was the editor? Fred Fleets. Same editor. Who's writing the new National Security Strategy? 3-star General Keith Kellogg. Who's the editor of it? The same editor from 2017. Why is it when you go to the Department of Defense that you can't see quote unquote Joe's National Security Strategy from 2022? It was on whitehouse.gov back then. Why isn't it on the Department of War archives? Why is the 2017 the most recent? They put it right in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching a military operation. The military didn't recognize quote unquote Joe because the whole thing's an operation. All right. So that one Executive Order 12333 and Executive Order 13913 referenced ties into your unconventional warfare. It's referenced in it in the Special Operations Command. It's all in there. All right. So now let's tie in the FCC portion. So 47 U.S. Code 606, Executive Order 13913, which is in that first 180 days of Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, President Trump. You've heard me mention this over and over and over again. That's their entry in the War Powers Act, temporary entry. It tells you that. That way it's not going to be used in the future. That also validates this is a special operation strategic because it's not going to be used in the future. So let's tie in that. That executive order we just broke down, 13913, was in the first 180 days under President Trump's NDAA 2020, which is Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. That's where it's located for record purpose and recording of the War Powers Act and the use of military. Now let's take that executive order, the FCC, and tie into this. You got Executive Order 14239 that President Trump just issued March the 18th, 2025. It's not a continuity order from the standpoint of it's not a national emergency that needed a continuity, but you have the Executive Order 13961 that invoked the continuity government December the 7th, 2020. On the last full 24-hour day of a presidency, you had quote-unquote Joe partially revoking that Executive Order 13961, partially, meaning it's still partially active. And then this executive order is a stem onto the foundational order, which would be your 13961. So 14239 has to do with the continuity government that President Trump put into place way back here, March 18th, 2025, not that long ago. And in that executive order, it specifically talks about a national security memorandum, order of succession. It's got the Presidential Policy Directive 22, which ties into your national security specialty events. And it's got a command in there. It says in 240 days. So 240 business days from March 18th is November the 13th. What are the odds of that? So we have this quote-unquote event happen in the 240 days And this executive order is specifically for artificial intelligence? Because it says in there a key word, which we're about to break down first. But first, quote unquote, Joe was the first quote unquote president who didn't have an order of succession within any military domain. So, like the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, the National Security Council. So, how could he meet with the Joint Chief of Staffs, which are your generals and admirals, if he don't even have an order of succession? An order of succession is more important than a memorandum. The order of succession says, I'm the man in control here. And if something happens to me, then here's my order of succession. So how come, quote unquote, Joe don't even have an order of succession? The first, quote unquote, president in United States history since the foundation of that NSC in 1947, and he don't have it. President Trump has those around him. Okay. Now, order of succession comes in. You just saw the whole world. They said our whole administration is here. We care so much about Charlie. They put the whole administration there for the quote unquote deep state that some people think's out there roaming around to just, oh, well, they're all in one location. We got them right here, right now. We can get them. You don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. That's why an order of succession is important. And then the president has a thing you can Google called a designated survivor. That's secretive. You can go look that up. All right. For crazy catastrophic event. That's why that's important. The PPD-22 is from 2013. Ooh, who was president then? All right. PPD-22. It talks about national security special events. There's only been 3 funerals that had Super Bowl type security. Only 3. President Reagan, President Ford, and George Herbert Walker Bush. What are the odds that 2 of those, Ford had Executive Order 11905 for assassinations, and Reagan had the Executive Order 12333 for assassinations? What are the odds of that? I don't find that coincidence at all. All right. And then Super Bowl type security means Secret Service, which means everybody in that audience was who? Mainly central casting. They were already checked out. Most of those people were already people who know President Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you got the singer up there talking about during the storm, singing all about the storm, the storm, the storm. Oh, even through the storm, even through the storm. Just the whole thing, every bit of it. And if you can't tell that wasn't acting by her, Lord help you God. I've seen better acting on Hallmark movies. All right, the knockoff ones at like 3 a.m., not the main feature at 8 p.m. This is where people's emotions get in their way. That was more acting. Go look at George Strait or someone who's a good entertainer when they got 75,000 people in a stadium. Go look how they look out in the audience. They don't look like they're stargazing and the star happens to be Rosie O'Donnell butt naked and eating a banana. All right. They don't look weird. People, get your emotions out of the way. All right. So the 240 days. Now, what are the odds again that President Trump has 7 executive orders right now? This year on artificial intelligence. 6 of those were before the 10th. 1 of those was just a couple of days ago. What are the odds of that? They're not. So now watch this. This is how you tie all this in. This is insane. It's great, but even me, that knowing what I know and all the things I've been tasked to do, it's just awesome because you got to tip your hat to the commanders. They're the ones who put all this on. So I'm still in all the commanders because I'm like, that's where I want to be one day from a civilian standpoint. As a veteran, I want to be up there. God forbid this ever happen again. But you got to tip your hat to this amazing, beautiful chess that's been played to flip the whole thing, to flip everything. Now watch this, how it all ties in. All right. So if you go to that Executive Order 14239, it has 2 key things in there. Restoring freedom of speech. Well, President Trump put an executive order in place in January for restoring freedom of speech. That's in this order. And then what other thing? The key thing that ties in artificial intelligence. Cognitive infrastructure. Google cognitive infrastructure and read about it. It's artificial intelligence. So when you look at your timeline of President Trump a month ago, and he told you, I don't know if people are ready for quick trials. And then he posts on September the 9th about quick trials, back up a few days to First Lady's speech and event at the White House about artificial intelligence being the future. Then look at what would have been, artificial intelligence, possibly the 9th with the Amazon publishing the book. All right. Then you go to the 10th. None of that was real. That wasn't real blood. A white shirt that don't have any blood stains on it. That's the first big thing right out the gate. The blood didn't land anywhere. How can it splatter off to the side if it don't land? You have to, the way you find out that it splatters to the side, this is how I'll show you how to sharpen your skills, ladies and gentlemen. When you see a video online, learn how to video screen record your phone. Pull your little thing down, hit record. Record the video. Stop it when you're ready. Then go to your gallery. Pull up the video. Don't let it play. Hit the pause button. Go up to your screen again and push screen record again. Record your screen and take your finger under the little play button where you have the little line and drag it as slow as you can. And then look at the discrepancies you see, especially with this video. You can see blood splattering to the side. How did it splatter to the side? How did no blood get on the shirt? So when you take the original raw footage and you put it in artificial intelligence ChatGPT, which is one of the most popular apps out there, it's free, by the way. There's no catch to it. You can go to chatgpt.com. It's free. Free log, free sign up, free log, everything. It unlimited amount of times you want to use it. It's no charge right now. And see, that's also part of educational, helping people. So this is how this all ties in. That cognitive infrastructure from that executive order 14239, which is part of the continuity of government invoked in 2020, all those tie into this. And then that 240 days report by the president in this new executive order, that all ties in. And then your first lady talking about the importance. Then you look at the bigger picture of what I talk about. We're not breaking down the bigger picture right now, but this is a little intricate part of it. It's big to most people, but it's intricate in another way because the bigger picture is the 45-47 and the end goal and the outcome, all that. And now here's how I'm going to show you. So I told this, I don't know, I've probably said it on this show before because I've talked about it just about everywhere because it's very important. President Trump, the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court ruled that President Trump can use the 1798 Aliens Act to deport migrants without any due process and all that. That's what that's about. Now, 1798 is not some number they pulled out the hat. That is legitimately the year that thing was passed, 1798. All right. Now, I told some people a long time ago, I said, don't be surprised with President Donald John Trump and the generals, knowing the generals like some of the generals I know, don't be surprised if they don't bring the full act back. I said, if you go Google and research the 1798 Aliens Act, you'll see it has two names to it. But they'll tell you the other portion expired in 1800. Expired don't mean abolished, ladies and gentlemen. Expired just means it's not used anymore, don't need it anymore. Because it's only for a wartime, but a special wartime. A special event, a special everything. Well, the second portion to that, you'll find it on a lot of my podcasts long before September the 10th. It's called the 1798 Aliens and Seditions Act. And I said, don't be surprised if President Trump is not using the full act here in the future. He'd already been using it. You saw CNN get hammered. You saw PBS get hammered. You saw NPR get hammered, hammered meaning defunded and they're deplatformed, which is 47 United States Code, Section 606. That's your bigger. It's called War Powers of the President. But then when you get down to it, what backs it up is the 1798 Aliens Act, and then you got the Supreme Court who clarified it. And I said, don't be surprised if they're not using the full thing. The Seditions Act, ladies and gentlemen, is where American citizens in the 1800 era were punished for their scandalous and fraudulent and fake, whatever words you want to use in modern day, If you spoke against the government, you were punished. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can't be just in a normal situation. If you said the most atrocious thing about Charlie Kirk, it don't matter how much hate you get, how much whatever it could be, you could say the most atrocious thing. Freedom of speech. You can't fire someone over freedom of speech unless you're in a wartime situation by the commander, and he deems that. So you've seen CNN get deplatformed. They're down to they're in a cubicle on the outskirts of Atlanta now. All right, you've seen PBS and NPR lose their funding. You just saw, if you saw me post about it, The View is being investigated by the whom? FCC. And what does 47 United States Code do? It gives the president what? The control over that, or a designated person over the FCC. All right. And you're seeing Jimmy Kimmel get fired. You've seen all these people get fired. You've seen all these people get fired for what they said about Charlie Kirk and organizations, NFL.
Wait, real quick, Derek. Jimmy Kimmel got reinstated. His suspension was up. What's that all about?
Well, you let it all play out. But you've seen NPR and ABC. All these others are being let it all play out, because this is all part of it. It shows people who are defying presidential authority. Same thing with Pfizer in 2020. Like, let it all play out. We're not there yet. See, that's another thing right there. We're not there yet. I didn't see that. I ain't seen it, but it just shows we're not there yet. So NPR, PBS, all these other, President Trump calls MSNBC, MSDNC after the Democrat National Party, all that stuff. Let all this to be, we're not there yet. It's still working up. So the 1798 Aliens Act, Seditions Act, that's what everybody's witnessing. You can't fire somebody over freedom of speech unless it's deemed by the president. And that's what I'm talking about, the outcome, the bigger picture. All these people on X and all these people out there on Rumble and all these people who are just, no wonder Americans are, I get it. If you have never heard of Derek Johnson, Rattle Trap 1776, I get it. And I'm bragging on myself, I know. But I use President Donald John Trump, laws and orders of the military first, as a veteran first, the commander's laws and orders. And all of them outline to the T our foundation. If there was a discrepancy there because of my honor and integrity that I have in my heart and soul and everything, you would see it. It would be the polar opposite, me yelling the opposite way, going, this is not right. Because every veteran that knows what they're supposed to know would see the other side if it were the other side. It's not that. This is to the T a prescription of the Declaration of Independence being flipped back. But we're still in the operation of it. And until President Donald John Trump completely terminates that continuity government order, until you see that, which he's terminated a lot now, especially two big ones with Syria and Congo, but Syria especially, we haven't ever done trade with Syria, and also Vietnam. So everybody's seeing world history and got to let it play out. And then the other thing this ties into, this is the big, big picture. This is your Obama again. So those alone should show you that all these people being fired and all these people being let go and all these people, they're losing their funding, and the View is under investigation, the FCC, that's your 13913, and it ties into your 14239. They all tie in. All this connects. But the big picture is this. On September the 11th, there wasn't much chatter about September the 11th, 2001. There wasn't much memorial going on about September the 11th, 2001. But what did you see Eric Trump post on his Instagram? He posted a challenge coin that said mission accomplished. Well, Eric wasn't in the military. Charlie wasn't in the military. Cass wasn't in the military. So he's posting a military challenge coin. Everybody who's a veteran knows what a challenge coin is. It's just like winning a trophy, Super Bowl trophy, because a higher commander they'll ask you a question or give you a task to do to perform in front of them. If you can do that or answer the question, they'll give you a challenge coin. Or they might just love your spirit, your integrity, your enthusiasm, your work ethic, whatever it may be, and they give you a challenge coin and say, hey, for your hard work, and dedication and your love and your service. Here's a challenge point. It's a big deal. It said mission accomplished. Who was at ground zero the day of 9/11/2001? President Donald John Trump. Where is he from again? New York City, right? And then what did he say about those buildings back then? I don't know. Something don't sound right. It's just the buildings were built they were designed to take this kind of impact. And then mission accomplished by his son with a challenge coin. All right. And then Supreme Court docket 23-939. Can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit a political assassination on a rival? And then it says, in the very bottom of that, any military officer who carried out such an order committed the gravest of crimes, murder. Whose name is not in the War Powers Act? Obama. And then who does that tie in? Joe Biden and Hillary and everybody. So see, the Law of War Manual is very specific on this. It says you can't go back 40 and 50 years in history and charge people for something, because most of your witnesses are dead and things of that nature. So you have to catch people right in the act of it. You have to catch people right in the relevant time period. So it shows people, but that bigger picture is that, because President Trump just did what? Posted again a few weeks ago, all roads lead to Obama. And then right before that, Americans, especially Republicans, conservatives, you were all giddy because you saw what? An artificial video of Obama being arrested. Boy, you were happy for that. Oh, boy, did you start licking your chops and get all giddy and you wanted to run a marathon? You could have run to Jerusalem and back. All right. But what did you do on September the 10th? You recognized one AI because it tickled your fancy. But then when the AI went against your fancy, you did what? You fell for what you weren't supposed to fall for. You're not listening to your commander. You're not listening to your first lady. You're not reading the laws and the orders that are in place, that what you can know. If I can know it, you can know it. Chet Atkins, one of the greatest guitar players in the world, he said, if I can play like this, you can play like this. It just takes a little bit of practice. Now, he practiced 8 hours a day, so his sound and his skills displayed his 8 hours a day practice. If you only practice for 10 minutes and you get frustrated on guitar, then that's what you're going to sound like. You're going to sound like a cat on a chalkboard, right? So if you want to know, you can know. But that's the bigger picture. Every bit of that was artificial intelligence. It's all in President Trump's executive orders. And then when you go do the command of which he tells you to do and study AI, and you put that video, you run both videos through AI, Chat GPT, one of your most popular, says artificial intelligence, straight up. And then you look at the accuracy of it. It says on original footage, 98% accuracy. So if you're that 2 percentile, then guess what you need to be doing? Get your butt off of here, wherever you are listening, get off of here. And then as soon as the lottery opens up tomorrow, if you got a gas station that stays open 24 hours, go get you some scratch-offs, because you got better odds of that than to believe that 2 percentile is accurate, or however you want to flip it. If the 2 percentile is inaccurate, I believe the 2%, that ain't real, or that it is real, or whatever it is. However you want to split the hair, whatever number you want to apply to it, then you need to go do that. This ain't for you, boo-boo. All right. But it's all leading into the bigger disclosure. And the only way that this could be different in history, President Trump, his name, his brand, his image, his likeness, the hatred, ridicule, mockery, and everything he's taken and his family's taken, the only way you can exonerate him and that is to show the world what they've been watching and witnessing, which is the 45-47, which is a strategic, specific, strict, special operation. That's the only way. And that's the only way we can sustain in history, too, moving forward, that makes future history, is to put 2016 and everything we all lived under in the past and identify it and know what happened where we don't repeat that. But that's why the 45-47 is so important, is because that is a unique strategic special operation, and it's all unconventional, irregular warfare. No, we won't need those again for years, but we will need the laws and orders, and then everything on a small, the re-education, the education, and re-education of children and Americans on what you need to know and what's important. And so that's the only way President Trump can ride off into the sunset and have his name cleared and everything. It wouldn't be simply just cleaning out the government. It wouldn't be simply making everything better and cleaned out and efficient and effective. It's got to be a validation verbally for the whole world to know that that is what the 45-47 is. And that's why I tell people, you don't have to wait till then. You can know that now. Now you're on the ladder, and we're on the we done turn 4. The turning point in Charlie, that's turn 4. So if you're a race car fan, we're on the home stretch, as they call it. And we hit turn 4, and now we're off to the races to the finish line. All right, and it's going to be rapid fire, as President Trump said, with all these cities and National Guard. But everything now is that we're headed to the finish line, and there will be disclosure on it. There's going to be 45-47 disclosure. So everything you witnessed this past week, in the last 10 days, whatever, 11 days, all part of the grander plan. It's all part of it. And the greater outcome is more important than the little things in between. But people will know about it. History's going to account for that dash, and history's going to account for President Trump being a wartime commander, and history's going to account for what the military did and what the generals did and what the leaders did and what the world leaders did. And I firmly believe that the only way you can do it is like a General Assembly. They've already showed all of them in one location. So I firmly believe it's going to be something like that, to where they maybe even use the EAS and flip all the phones and TVs, because the only way you can bring the world to their knees is everybody to watch the same thing at the same time. And what better way to use the emergency alert system in a positive way, not negative and not sad and not scary and not all. You flip it all over, because what did Erica say? One of the most important things she said, even though it wasn't her, but it was AI, but still, the radio show will go on. Well, guess who's paying attention now? The whole world's paying attention now. Now they're going to be tuning in. Now they're going to be listening. They got majority of Americans now fully intact listening. And when a phone flips and a TV flips, it's going to flip everybody's. And the only way you're going to get out of it is golf, crocheting, knitting, hiking, hunting, fishing, whatever it may be. Sitting butt naked in your backyard meditating. That's the only way you're going to get out of it. Because if that's how they choose to show disclosure, what an awesome way that would be, is everybody's TVs and phones at one time flip, and you have to watch all these leaders tell you what just took place. And they got everybody's attention now. And that was a shot heard around the world, and it's going to lead all the way up to the major disclosure of the military tribunals. So everybody passed the test when it comes to, well, you didn't fall for the Gordonness, so you're ready for the quick trials. But people failed on the AI part, but that'll get better in time, because you're going to have to. But everybody's ready for the military tribunals now. That's what you're witnessing. That's why President Trump's been talking about the quick trial, quick trial, quick trial. Well, guess what? He said it a month ago. I don't think people they ready now. They didn't even talk about the blood or anything like that. Fake, real, doesn't matter. No one talks about, oh, that's nasty. Nope. Most people were just desensitized because of what? Yellowstone, Ozark, all these TV shows they've been watching. That's all you need to know. That's it. That's it. That's what took place. That's what's taking place lawfully and militarily.
Well, that was pretty good how you tied that all in together. I love it. So do you want to, let's see, we started at 4:30, we're right. Well, do you want to go into any questions or no?
Well,
How are you doing on time? Let me ask you this.
Well, no, I think I got to get ready for a big show in the morning that I got sprung on last second, and I'm not a morning person. Everybody who follows me knows that I'm posting at 2 and 3 a.m. and I don't like waking up at super early. But I think everybody needs to marinate on that. people need to go look at those orders. People need to go read that, tie this all in, and then be able to if you want to have a Q&A later. But, you know, I just think that people need to hear first what they need to know. And I always look at every audience as a new audience. Even if they've heard me a million times, then I still think people need to chew on it, marinate on it, and then come back to it, because we're in the turning point as exactly what that was, all strategic. Even the name was strategic. And we're on the home stretch, and it's going to be rapid fire from here out. It may not feel like it to Patriots, don't feel like it, but other people, it's going to be rapid fire. So I don't think anybody's going to wake up at this point that's completely lost. They're going to wake up on the disclosure. So I think that if there's any questions, they need to be thought about after this and then formed in another way, and then be on another date. But we could probably do something like that. Yeah, I mean, I know we've been doing it every 2 weeks, but we could probably do something like that if I'm not busy next week. But
come back to it. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk on the back end of this. And everybody, my suggestion to you is like Derek says, marinate on what he said. He said a lot, but he tied a lot of it in together. You know, be neutral, be open-minded, question everything, do your research. You know, things aren't making sense, just things don't click. So to me, it's a big question mark of what really happened, right? But if you listen here to Derek, this isn't anything new that he's been telling us. It's all there and it all makes sense. So again, nobody's telling you to say, okay, it was this or it was that. Go with what resonates with you, but definitely do your own research, tie it into what Derek says, and then I'm sure you'll have some comfort in whatever that may turn out to be. So with that, I'm going to get with Derek, see what we can do about doing a Q&A for you guys. So those of you that have questions regarding this, we can come back and hopefully answer some of those. But with that, Derek, have a great show tomorrow, and we'll talk on the backside. And then if we don't do a show, everybody, because of scheduling, his schedule, my schedule, he is always here every other Monday. So he'll be back in 2 weeks. So we'll figure something out. So with that, Derek, have a great night. Have fun tomorrow on your show, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. See y'all, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Keep up the great work. And thank you, everybody here. God bless, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care, buddy. Thanks, Derek.
See y'all.